Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and this is a bit of an update on a project that I've done recently. You'll have seen recently that I did 2 videos on restoring a vintage Laser Light Skeletor, and in the second video I remade the battery pack connector so that the way Skeletor worked was that you push down the battery packs and his eyes lit up. And a couple of people have got in touch with me saying that's not actually how the original toy was set up. The original toy was set up so that you pushed the battery pack in place and you used the arm to light the eyes up. So it appears I've sort of reworked the way that Mattel did it and done it in my own fashion. So I thought today what I should do is do an update on that video and remake the battery pack and sort out the electronics inside this Laser Light Skeletor so that it works exactly how the original one worked. So that's what we're going to be doing. So here is the Laser Light Skeletor that I'd restored in the previous couple of videos, and what I'd done is I changed the battery pack connector so that it had this little lump on it, and when you press this battery pack down the eyes on Skeletor light up because I sort of modified this little panel inside of him to always be touching the back of his body. But apparently what is supposed to happen is there is a tab on this arm, and as you move that arm around it pushes this metal plate towards the back of Skeletor, and that is what completes the circuit. So I've done a couple of things sort of differently to how Mattel had set this figure up, and that's what I'm going to be sort of sorting out today. The first thing I need to do is obviously remake this little piece of copper so that it isn't in the sort of shape that I've made it here, but it's more in line with what Mattel did originally. So let's recut this piece of copper and I'll make it look like the original one. Then we can put it in the figure, and because I haven't changed anything in the figure yet, if we do that his eyes will light up permanently, and then we can take the figure apart and see if we can work out how to get it so that the arm actually finishes the connection and makes the lights and eyes come on. And here we go, so this is my updated version of that little metal bar. You can see I've simplified it quite a lot. The top is still the same, but basically I've just put one large sort of bend down towards the bottom of the battery pack and then locked it in place. So now what will happen when we put this inside the Skeletor figure, if I put a battery inside it, the lights should be permanently on because this little tab will be touching onto the back panel that's inside there. That's what we want at this stage. We want this light to be permanently on. And you can see there, his lights are now permanently on. So what I've got to do is take this figure apart again, and we'll try and work out how to get this arm to move that little contact inside so that it's not always touching the battery. And then as we move it up and down, his eyes and his hand will come on. Luckily, if you watched the very first video of this project, I didn't actually glue any of these Skeletors together. You can see they are still sort of only loosely held together. This left-hand arm actually holds all of the body together. So if I take this left arm off, his body will come apart, and we can get back to all of the contacts inside and sort that out. Okay, so I can see what I've sort of done wrong on the first instance. I did make a mistake on how this toy works. What's supposed to happen is this arm has a sort of thicker bit on the back of it, and as you rotate it backwards, it's supposed to move this copper plate back onto the battery contact. It is the one that I've just made here, and what I actually did was I sort of bent this all forwards because I thought it was in the wrong position. So if I rebend this copper plate so that it is away from the back panel, then when we put the arm in and rotate it back, it will move that copper plate onto the battery pack and form a complete loop. So I'm going to take this out. I will reshape this copper plate and we can put it back together and do a test. We can actually do a test before putting the whole of the body back together. If I put this battery in place now, all of these lights should come on because this is the sort of the main part of the figure with all of the wiring in it. So you can see that does all come on. And if I get a little screwdriver or something and move this out of the way, you can see we've now broken the contact and the lights go off. If I let go, it pings back on and the lights come on. So if I bend this copper plate just slightly away, that should make the arm part of it work again. So it's interesting. I didn't notice that any of this was how it worked when I was sort of first working on this. These are rare figures, so I've never had the opportunity to work on them before. So it's always interesting when you learn something like this. I thought I'd done it correctly, but someone else has pointed out that there's a different way that this should have worked. So let's get this one working properly. Okay, so you can see there I've now bent it so that copper plate is slightly away from the back of Skeletor. If we put that in, hopefully when we turn that on, we will be able to see that that copper plate gets moved. Yeah, you can see that's exactly what's happening, and actually that gives me a good idea of why these arms are always broken now. Both of the figures I had snapped right arms. I think that's because to get this to work you actually had to sort of physically force this arm up, and it encourages you to snap the hand off. So I can now see why you see so many of these with broken arms. Let's put that battery in place and we'll see if that actually does the job. So there you go, no lights are on. If we put this arm in place and I rotate it back, as I rotate it sort of more vertically, the light should come on. Oh, no, it's not working. Maybe I've bent that too far, or there's not enough. Oh right, yeah, you have to go a long way actually to make a contact on that. I've probably bent that a little bit too far, so I'm going to bend that a little bit more back into place. Oh no, there we go, got it. Yep, that does work, but you do have to bend it a long way. Yeah, I might have to just modify that copper plate a little bit more so that you're not bending it so far. Or maybe I can bend out the bit that I put on the battery pack a little bit further. A little bit more modification anyway, but we're almost there, and that will make it work how the original one worked. Oh no, you can see it does. It is going. Just a bit flaky. Yeah, let's bend some of these copper pieces and we'll see if we can improve that. There we go, that's got it. I've bent that plate a little bit more now. We only just have to gently rotate his arm back and there's enough to touch the contact together, and you can see the lights work. So I'm going to put this figure back together now. Okay, so I now have a version of Skeletor that works exactly how Mattel intended. So if I pick this guy up and lift his hand up, you'll see that his eyes and his hand lights up, and if I put his hand down, then the lights go off. So that is how he was supposed to be. What I did in the previous video was my own sort of interpretation of what Mattel had planned. Both work equally well. I think this version is probably more fun, which is why Mattel intended it that way, but it certainly is going to be a reason why you see those with the arms broken, because you're essentially pushing the arm up to switch the light on, and that does encourage children to sort of push the arm up a bit far and snap the arm off. So I can certainly see why that is broken. On the left here we actually have a different version. This is a Barbarossa custom version that I've just finished building, and this uses a completely different method. So you can see here there is a switch on the back, and if I switch that on you can see he lights up, and if I switch that off he goes off. So you'll be seeing that in a future video as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this little update of the Skeletor Laser Light restoration project. It's certainly been interesting to me. I've learned something new that I didn't know was a sort of a feature of this figure, and hopefully it's something that you didn't know either. So if you've enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.